My name is Cindy Lopez, and I'm the Director of Community Connections here at CHC. So Community Connections is the group here at CHC that's responsible for all of our community education and community engagement, so classes like this. And we have a combination, some of our own clinicians who do sessions, and then we also bring in guest speakers tonight. So small group here. Have you all been at CHC? Are you familiar with CHC? Yes, perfect. Okay. If you have any questions or whatever about CHC, I'm happy to answer any questions. I won't go through the whole spiel. This booklet in front of you is all of our community education sessions for this season. And it also, there's also lots of other good information in here just about how to contact CHC for an appointment or how to schedule a free parent consultation, or and you can see what's coming up. So we have next week, I believe we're back to team next week. It is next Tuesday is, yes, why is my teen always tired? Nutritional strategies. And we have guest speakers coming in for that too. So anyway, feel free to take a look at that and sign up for more sessions. We'll have you come back. And so I'm just going to introduce Kanesha. I'm really excited that she's here tonight. Kanesha is a life coach, a professional certified life coach, an educator, a blogger, a crafter, all kinds of things. And she was really excited to be here tonight too, and I'm glad to not sit home in front of the TV watching all that.
Exactly.
So I'll turn it over to you, Kanesha. Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna have a good time. So I'm Kanesha, as Cindy said, and you know, I have my professional titles, but if someone asked me to describe myself, I would say I was the love child of Oprah and Martha Stewart. And the reason I say that is I started my career in education as a high school teacher at a super large high school right outside of Chicago, and I worked there for 8 years before my family moved west. And when you work with teenagers, everything is up for discussion, even if it's not on the lesson plan or the agenda. So I had an early training in how to connect with people who couldn't be bothered with you. And it has served me well in my work as an educator because I really love the reluctant learner, and I also love people who are challenged by a structure that doesn't really work for them. So it's just been really fun to go through my career as a high school teacher, then a school administrator. I worked at a K-12 school in Colorado, primarily as the trainer for teachers coming in, which was super exciting. And then I worked at the University of Colorado. Go Buffs, any Buffs in here? And that was fantastic because I got to train teachers going through the licensure program, but then my husband's job changed and then we moved here. And so I started my own educational consulting business. So I primarily work with women who are in transition. And why do I work with women in transition? Because I'm always a woman in transition, because we've moved several times in our marriage, and we've always moved at not really the most opportune time for our kids' education. So, you know, we're ruining their lives moving to these great places. So I'll take that. And it's really fun to be working with someone who thinks that all the pieces are falling apart when they really can fall into a different way. And then we take a creative lens to really look at that. And I think that's applicable a lot to parenting, because there's truly no manual, there's truly no handbook. And, you know, sometimes it's day-to-day basis. Just when we think we have it on lock, you know, the kids are kids, or the kids are humans, or the kids are going through their own transition. So what we're going to do tonight is pretty fun, I think. It's actually my most fun workshop that I like to teach other than journaling. And I usually do this with parents and their kids. Sometimes they sit together, sometimes they don't, but they're all getting the same information and executing in different ways. And I find that it's really fun to connect with our kids, especially when they get about age 12 and up, through creativity, because oftentimes as parents, we're not sitting on the floor playing with them in the same way as we once did when they were smaller children. We're not going to the park in the same way, so we're always looking for different ways to connect, be present, and communicate. And I have 2 kids. You know, what does she know? She's educated, but has she raised children? Yes, I have. I have a 19-year-old daughter. She's in college. She's in New York. and I'll talk a little bit about her as we go through. And then I have an 11-year-old son, and my daughter is very neurotypical. You know, she can thrive in any environment, go with the flow, just be in school and everything. Great for her. My son, on the other hand, is twice exceptional. He's super gifted in math and science. He's challenged socially, so we've had a lot of ups and downs in our school system, and I think we finally got it figured out. Like, it's been a great academic year so far, but it's been really interesting for me as a parent, as a coach, as an educator, to work with myself in the same way I work with parents. So, you know, it's good to have some playtime for myself when things tend to get a little stressful, which they do. So I know you all have the presentation with you, so you shouldn't have to take too many notes on anything. And we're going to be making things. And if you don't have a pen, I know there's some extra ones on the table over there, because you might not want to write with the Sharpie to start, because it'll bleed through the pages. So why are we talking about this right now before the holiday season? This is typically the most stressful time for a lot of families, because we're trying to create magic on top of a season that's already magical. Plus we're working, plus we're still parenting, plus we're trying to take care of ourselves and just live our lives. And I've found that a couple of my clients right now have said this has been an exceptionally stressful fall, because it's been an election cycle, and then, you know, people are angry with each other for different reasons in regards to that, and all the other things that I mentioned before. So what we're going to talk about today is just 4 essential tools that I tend to talk about when it's time to deal with something that's a transitional type season. And it doesn't have to just apply to the holiday season. You could apply this to anything, but I think it's really fun to talk about it now, because a lot of times people are like, I hate the holidays, it's just not a fun time, and I feel like it doesn't have to be that way. So I'll talk about the focus protocol, we'll do some visualization. You're going to start creating your pop-up sanctuary however you want that to look, because it's very individualized, and that's the focus on creativity. So those are the things that we're going to look at tonight. And of course, if there are any questions while we go, please stop and ask me, because we're a small group and we don't have to wait to the end. So why should we have a workshop like this, or why did I create a workshop like this? I told you about my kids, and when we lived in Colorado, we've been in the Bay Area for 6 years, but when we lived in Colorado, my mother-in-law lived with us for 5.5 years there. She moved in with us from Minnesota when our youngest was born, because I was working full-time, my husband's working full-time. He travels a lot for work. He's actually gone right now for work. And so we were trying to figure out how to live our lives and things like that. And so when you add a new baby and then a whole nother adult, you know, and you have the different relationships, it's a stressful thing. And so I really wanted our multi-generational nest, as I call it, like our full nest, to be, you know, a restful respite, a fun time, and a really strong family. So my mother-in-law used to be a daycare teacher, and I know she liked to do things with kids, and she's really more suited to work with younger kids, and sometimes adults might be a little bit challenging for her, not in a negative way, but, you know, we connect with who we connect with. And so I said, well, why don't we come up with a way to make the holidays not traditional? Let's make it our traditional. You know, I know you've always done it this way. What parts do you like? Let's keep that. What parts do you hate? Let's get rid of it. We're in charge of this. And it was kind of like this epiphany for her, like, yeah, we could just do what we want, like just blow the roof off of everything. And I found when we did that after our whole full first year cycle of living together, we just had a better holiday season. We felt better about each other. It wasn't a scramble to when do the kids go back to school? When is this going to happen? When are we going to be done being with all this family time? When are we going to be done with each other? And we just had a better time being together. So, you know, I know we're not the only family who goes through something like that, even though we might have different circumstances. And I figured it might be better if parents had a chance to get ahead of it, make a plan for the holiday season, and really focus on what they want, and then build the rest out around that. So I have a little quiz in there for you, and you don't have to do it now, but I want to talk about how I've used it. So I have used it with different people where we go through the questions, but we don't sit down and do it as a quiz. What I like to do is tell people, if you have that quiz, you can cut it up into different strips. So this is the exact same quiz, it's just printed on yellow paper. But cut it up into different strips, it's all the questions. And then if you're having a family meeting or a game night, however you get together as a family, you can go over these questions and be like, oh, what do you think about this? True or false, and get a sense of how people are feeling, and then you can see where the levels of burnout are. And everybody might be in a different place. If you have older kids who are moving toward ending the semester and they're going to have final exams, burnout might be happening for them. If you are going to be traveling for the holiday, people travel for the holidays sometimes, that's even like, oh, I'm exhausted before we've even gone to see the relatives. That might be coming. So it's really good to get a sense of where you are as far as a holiday burnout. I've worked with clients where we've made paper cubes. You cut up paper and turn it into a cube, and we have the questions on the different sides so that you can turn it into a communication game with the family. Or if you just want a little bit more fun for yourself, you can turn it into a communication game, and they get a sense of how they're feeling about the burnout. And when you have an idea like this, it's easier for you to ask for what you want and say what you don't want to do. So I have another client, she's been primarily in charge of buying all the gifts for the holiday. She has to mail all the gifts for the holiday. Even if she uses Amazon, she still has to do all that, the ranging, making sure the timing is together. And I said, how did you get that job? She said, I just hate it so much. How did you get that job? She's like, well, I just always did it. And I said, well, have you offered that job to your partner and say, hey, let's just switch roles? Never occurred to her. So we were looking at her burnout, and she was seriously way over 5. And she said, this is the part that always keeps me up at night. I don't think I'm going to get it done well. I don't think I'm going to get it done in time. And so she was thinking about just the packages. And so we figured out how she could, the first year, because she didn't really want to let it all the way go. The first year she could cut it in half. She'd do half, her partner do the other half. And then the next year she would keep offsetting it to her partner. And so this was a couple years ago. And she said, after that I just realized I had more choice, and I didn't hate it as much because I knew I had help. Instead of just being focused that I had to do it all and all of it was on me. So, taking time to just see where you are with this is an easy way to gauge how much support you need for yourself and what to ask for when you're going into the holiday season. Has anyone ever done a burnout quiz like that before or something similar? It's really interesting just to see where you are and things you haven't really thought about. But my family likes to do it this way and pick out of the hat and read them. And I don't know. We like games. We're game people. We love board games. So like I was saying, once you get a sense of what might be causing you stress or might be burning you out, then you can look at the focus protocol. And I think this is really good for people who are working with kids who are in middle grades, because sometimes they're having so many different teachers, and so they're like having a lot of bosses, and they're like, I just have to do everything. I have to get everything done. And then they see us as the parents operating like that. I'm in a frenzy. I have to do everything. I have to get everything done. And you have to get ready for the November holidays, the December holidays. And when you take a moment to focus and you go through these steps, you can just get a sense of where you want to be. So let me ask this question. How many people have kids who are in elementary grades, like till 5th grade? Okay, and what about junior high, middle school? Okay, and then high school? And then post-secondary? Okay. So one thing I found when you are in secondary school and you're looking at different things like this, parents don't really realize how much stress they have when they are managing their kids' stress around this time of year when things start to come due, big projects, final exams, study sessions, and all of that. So one thing I've done with my kids when we are getting to this point, my youngest one is just 11, so we are not quite there, but with my oldest, especially when she was in high school, I would always sit her down at the end of a week, if I had 10 minutes with her, if I had 15 minutes with her, and go through this. And I have a couple of pictures I'll just pass around. Sometimes you just got to get a little messy at home. And I would just pull out all these different things for her to look at. And I wouldn't sit down and ask her to do anything with me, but I would just start working on stuff. I would start like, I'm going to work on my sanctuary. I'm going to do my focus. And then she'd come out, what are you doing? What are you working on? What's this? And I'm like, are you studying? She's like, I'm just feeling stressed out. I said, come take a break with me. Come work on something. Come shift your focus. Come get a little creative and play a little. Well, what should I make? Because she's studying. She thinks she has to produce at a certain level. She thinks she has to do a project in a certain way. I said, whatever you want. If you glue two things together, great. If you staple something, fine. If you just look at something, touch paper, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Just sit down on the floor with me and do it. And part of the reason that in this case that I put it on the floor and do something different, because it was no longer like studying. It was a shift in the environment. It was shifting what she was doing. And that's how I got her to shift the focus. And then that's when we could start talking about, well, what's going on with you? What are you holding on with the baggage? I know I'm having a stressful time right now. This is when all my invoices are coming due. What are you working on? Oh, Mom, I have this. And so we're having the exchange and going through. And then, she'd get up. She's like, oh, I feel better. I've talked about it. But instead of me asking, how was your day? What did you do today? What to do? What does the teacher want? It's a different conversation. So I just use this structure to ask her about what's going on with her. But at the same time, I'm doing it for myself. I'm going through it, I'm talking about it, and I'm not holding things in. And I don't have to confess everything like, oh, I'm worried about, world peace or anything like that. But it could also be about my day-to-day, and so she can hear about those different things. So that's the focus protocol, and so that's in your packet. So think about that. And then the other thing that I always talk to parents about doing, specifically around the holiday season, is looking at how the previous year or years have gone, whatever the case may be. And so this is a thing, and I wrote down something I had a couple years ago. And these are actually from my journal. I didn't put the super personal things in there, but I put the ones I wanted to share. So accomplishments and success, I wrote those things down. I don't know, for me, I get jammed up about my holiday cards. I know I should let that go. I'm a work in progress, but that's confession. And then like the challenges, working on different things, helping relatives understand how my daughter is differently wired. We come from a family that has like a lot of high expectation of what academics and success mean. And so my daughter right now is in art college, which doesn't really fit academic success, right? Or does it? But is there a debate there? And so like, oh, I would have thought she would have done something different, or, oh, art school, okay. And so managing my challenges and how I respond to that over the holiday season when they're asking these questions. So you didn't really want her to go to like a real college or anything like that. Do I respond to that? Do I have to continually re-explain myself? These are the things I'm thinking about. And so, sorry we can't see that fully, but when I'm going through this, it just gives me a sense of different things that I might not have thought about since the previous academic year. Things I haven't thought about since the previous academic year, or things that are constantly nagging me that might not be at the top of mind that I really need to deal with. So it's really fun to do the snapshot for yourself. And if you're someone who has family meetings, or you're discussing things with your spouse or partner, it's good to talk about those things too without having like, oh, we need to talk, lengthy discussion. If there's already a structure built out around it, then you can just use that to go over the information. Is anyone in here a journaler already? Keeps a notebook or a journal? So if you're already doing something similar, you could add that to it. I'm changing up a little bit. And so then when we're looking at the holiday season, and this is where we're starting to think about our sanctuaries, a lot of times we have a big list of what we want to do, things we want to focus on going into the holiday season and ending a calendar year. And I always say, just pick 4 things. Because you know what, the rest of the things will come. You will always have a large list if you're living your life. So the holiday season, these next 2 months of the calendar year, just pick 4 things. And you in the middle, of course, because we're always putting other people ahead of ourselves, but put yourself in the middle and think about the things that will support you or that you want to focus on as you finish up and go through the holiday season. So, what I'm always emphasizing to people is say no to different things. Is like, you could just say no. That'll give you more time to do something else. When you say no to somebody else, that's saying yes to yourself. And I recently had a client, we were working on different ways to say no, and I was like, let's just write a script. So if you're having a conference call and you're feeling nervous about saying no, let's just write all these different ways you can say no. So that might be a focus for you. And these are not my actual ones. These are kind of takeaways I've had from coaching sessions. Upgrading your fitness, maybe that's something you might want to do so you can have more energy. Our time has changed, it's getting darker earlier. Sometimes we might need to be energized through more physical activity and movement. Being mindful, whatever that means for you, if it's meditation, if it's journaling, if it's putting on your aromatherapy candles, whatever mindfulness like for you. And then I think the biggest thing is, and I encourage this for families, specifically parents for themselves and then with their families, is more playtime. I mean, we will schedule dental appointments. Well, maybe not dental. People don't like to go to the dentist. All kinds of other appointments. We'll get to our jobs. We'll get the oil checked. We'll get our tires rotated, get our kids to school, get the groceries delivered, get the groceries picked up. But where is the playtime? Scheduled. Is it on the calendar? And if it's on your calendar, if something else comes up, will you bump the playtime off? So I think that's one of the biggest things, that when you're creating something like a sanctuary, playtime, rest, refuel, and saying no to other things become top priorities. And so, pop-up sanctuary. Let me talk to you a little bit about that. So I have a couple of examples. So some of you look through the packet. I have two different ones, and you can just flip through the pages. I typically don't bring examples because I don't want people to be swayed by other people's creativity. But, you know, I thought for the sake of time, we might want to look at some examples. When I'm working with people to create a sanctuary, it's all about what's going to make you feel good. It's not about goals. It's not about vision board or anything like that. So a lot of times people will do something on paper because they're comfortable with it. I've had people take an empty box like this and just decorate it and then put certain things in the sanctuary that makes them feel good. Maybe it's a rock, maybe it's a candle that you're not going to burn in here, or maybe it's some other like trinket that makes them feel good or calm. This is one that I actually keep in my car, especially when my daughter was home because she had field hockey and we were always in the minivan. And so I just put things in there. You can look in there, there's nothing personal. I put things in there that I liked so I wouldn't be on my phone all the time. So I would take a break while I'm waiting for her, because usually I get on the phone, I'm just checking, scrolling, and that doesn't calm me down. It doesn't give me a break. So I would use those quotes to journal, like to give me like a little prompt to journal. And so I just carried that around in the car, and then my kids would be like, oh, you want to put this trinket in your sanctuary box, Mom? And they want to help and contribute to that. So that was fun. A couple weeks ago, I worked with a group of women, and we all had a box like this. And so they had all different materials like you have, and you could decorate the box any way you wanted or not. And they were to write a mantra to themselves in here, like what their goal was for the holiday season or a reminder. And then they were to fill it with different things as a sanctuary. So one lady emailed me afterwards, and she's like, I took my box to work because she's a CPA. She's like, it's a stressful time of year. And so when I have my breaks, when I usually will veg out on Facebook, when I have a break, I've just been opening up the box and just looking at the stuff and touching it and going through it. So that's one way she used it. This is my visual sanctuary, my actual one that I have by my desk at home. I have my home office. And so it's super bright in colors because I just like bright colors. And then I like to have things textured because I'm very textile. Like I don't know, it just calms me to touch things with different patterns. And so it's not as much text as it is color, because that's visually pleasing to me. That makes me feel relaxed, makes me feel happy, it shifts my mood. So that's my visual sanctuary. I did a workshop with a group of women leaders in April, and they were like, we don't want to craft. And I'm like, that's fine. So what I brought for them, and you'll see you have these like note cards that they're blank on the table. So I was like, we're going to each take a card, and you're going to write something on there that you want to work on. And they got 5 cards. So they wrote what they wanted to work on. And then I said, well, what's going to make you feel good about working on that? And then they had to find a visualization. And then they would glue that on, and then I had them glue on top of the words they wrote. I said, so instead of having it written so as structured, put some creativity on it. If you want to write it again, use puffy letters, use something from a magazine, change it up so when you have to go back and look at what you want to do, it'll be more visually pleasing. So this was one that we did as an example, and then it just has words popping out, it's colorful, different textures, and things like that. So it doesn't have to be something that's super challenging to create the pop-up sanctuary. When you get a break from using your brain in one modality, you can reset, recharge without having to do extra. And we really should give ourselves 5 to 10 minutes at minimum per day to just sit and do nothing. I know that we want to pack a lot in.
Does reading count?
No, I wish it did, because that's when I love to listen to my podcasts. But it's really a good time for us to just stop and pause. And so I don't know if you've seen these things. They're kind of like the door hangers at hotels, but they're the things that you put on closets to put the sizes for kids. I had these like way back when, and I took the labels off. And so what my kids have, they have these and they've decorated them. We have washi tape on the table, and they love washi tape. And they've decorated them. And so when they want to take a break from the rest of us, they'll just hang this on the door. And then my son, he'll put like a little sticky that says 15 or 20, like how many minutes he wants away. And so it was a really fun thing for them to take a break from each other, like when they were having their challenges together. Like, I'm going in my sanctuary. I'm on break from you. And it's like, oh, okay. Because I'm always like, I'm off duty, you guys. I'm going to go sit on the porch for 5 minutes, put the timer on the microwave. I'm just going to go sit out there. Nobody come out there. Oh, you're in your sanctuary. I'm just sitting there. It's a ritual for you to just do something for yourself without it having to be super planned in a way. I have to get somewhere else. I have to go do something else. It's just taking a break in the moment. So that's another thing you can do if you're not into building something visual. It's just having the signal that this is your time to take a break. My son has one of these. It doesn't have glitter on it. This one's blank. But it's just note cards. And he likes to glue different words that he really likes. And he said it just calms him. Like, oh, I really like that word. And he'll just put it in there, and he keeps this in his locker at school. My daughter, when we were moving here from Colorado, we moved in the middle of 8th grade, drama. And she was super upset. She hated everything, 8th graders. So what I did was I just bought this box at like maybe Michael's or Hobby Lobby, and I just painted the top. Her name is Isabella. And I wrote this little quote for her in there. And I said, sweetie, I know everything is like terrible right now. So fill this with things you love, things that are great, that make you feel happy. And when you're feeling sad that we've moved, just go to it and look at it. And so what she did was she had this little easel. I don't know where she got that, though. And then I always make these little love notes for the kids' lunch. I don't make them in the morning. I just make them like whenever, and I have them there. I'm not that organized for the morning time, so. But she kept the ones from lunch that she really liked, and she would put them in here. And so then when she went to college, she said, okay, this one was for my transition to here. I'm going to make a new one for college. So she left this one at home. I told her I was going to use it today. She was like, make sure there's no notes in there. I'm like, it's just the little notes that I did. So that was the way she created her sanctuary that was fun for her. So there's just so many different formats that you can do for the sanctuary. There's not one way. There's not one way to create it. There's not one way to craft it. But if you look at any of your burnout results, or you just have an idea of what you need to do to relax yourself, that's how you create the sanctuary. That's what you put on the sanctuary. Those are the materials that you use. So basically, the principles: magic, creativity, shifting your mindset, having a space to relax, and, downtime. Sometimes when we're trying to add a different habit, we're like, oh, it's just one more thing. This is kind of the art of subtraction, because you get a space to pause and take a break. Does anybody know about hygge? It's pronounced so many different ways. So these are 3 books that I really like that are about hygge. And it's like the Danish art of getting cozy, of relaxing. It's been kind of popular and super trendy. I got these at my local library. They had tons of books, but these are the ones that I actually like. And if you're not so sure of different things you might want to add to being relaxed and being cozy, this book tells you, it gives you some ideas, it gives you some tips and tools, but it doesn't have to be something extra. My son, again, he likes to collect things. So we all know what this is, right? The wine carrier from Safeway. And he was like, Mom, I'm going to be putting like different trinkets I get for the holiday season from my advent calendar or from friends at school. And so I want something to put it in. I was like, well, let's find something in the house to decorate. And so I was like, let's put some things on this. And so I thought he was just gonna put different tools in there. What he did was put cups, plastic cups in here, and he labeled them different things. So he would put like holiday cards that he would get at school or something that he really liked. They trade magic cards. He put magic cards in there, and it's drawings he and his sister did. And this is what he keeps in there. I took the cups out because he was like, I can't take his cups. I don't want you to take my cups. That's fine. Can I take this? Yes. So, and he's had this for like 3 years. And I was like, do you want to make a new one? He's like, no, I really like this one because we did it together. And when we did it together, I just put stuff out. I didn't do it with him to do it. I was like, put whatever you want on it. However you want to cover it up. Do whatever. I helped him trace a little bit, but the rest was all on him as far as changing it up. So my point is if you're going to make a sanctuary, it doesn't have to be like, oh, I don't want to go to an art store. I don't want to buy crafts. Whatever you already have going, you can put it together for a sanctuary. So that's what we're going to start doing. All right. So there's really no rules, as I've mentioned. I've put some things on the table that I thought you might want to try out tonight that you might not actually have at home. A lot of people like to use maybe a board like this, or maybe bigger. Sometimes people like it bigger. I tend to like things smaller because I like to take stuff with me. That's me. I have a big purse. I got journals in purse, and I want to be able to take my stuff with me. I have index cards for you. I have sheets of paper. If you're not a paper type person, maybe you would create one electronically, like a collage or something. You don't have to do it with paper. You don't have to use glue or scissors. You can do it on the computer. That's totally allowed. You can do it in a journal. People love to do pockets in journals. You have these on your table, and it has adhesive on it, and it's just a little pocket. You could put it in a book, you could put it on a piece of paper, and then you can slide notes in there or different things that are important to you if you don't want to have a big sanctuary, or if you want to put it on something like this. I've seen someone put it on here and they'll have like a weekly intention or something like that. Different ways to do it. I put these cards on the table just as an example. This was a deck that we used at a workshop for a sanctuary, and what people did was they used the words and they found visuals that went with each word, something out of a magazine or something that they would draw. So there's just different things to get you going with the sanctuary. So I'm going to take any, oh yeah.
Maybe I missed it at the beginning. You make one of these any given day that you want to do a sanctuary? Like I'm used to like more vision boards where you like set it. And
yes, which is super specific, and I love vision boards. I usually have people, when I'm working with people, they usually want to do one when, you know, a stressful time of whatever that time may be. Kids like to do them at the start of the year. They want to put them in their lockers so they can see that, oh, between classes or whatever, I can see that. Sometimes people, when they're having a big transition in their life, a new baby, a move, something like that, to get them through the stress, like, oh, what am I going to do when I have to deal with all the calls? I'll look at my visual sanctuary before I have to do the hard task. Okay. So it could be anything like that based on what you know is going to cause you the most stress.
So it's the re-looking at it that can be just as effective as like doing creative stuff is like a natural.
Yeah, that's like, yeah, exactly.
So, but at the same time, you can't, I guess, always have time to create something on the fly if you're in school, for example, like you're saying. So you get to see it and sort of relive the creativity a little bit.
Yeah, I forgot this. I was telling Cindy earlier. So my son's he started a new school in September, and you know, you're new, but you've been at another school since kindergarten. He's 11, and so you know he's super nervous going into it. And I was like, well, honey, I know you're gonna have a locker. Why don't we create a little visual sanctuary for you so you can have it? And he was like, I don't want to have that in my locker. I don't want people to see it. That's fine. We can find another way. So we had some Altoid tins. Does everybody know those little tins with the mints? The little metal tin. And so I said, let's put it in there because that can go in your backpack. That can go in a pocket. Nobody knows what's in it. It's just mint. So it's like nothing. So, you know, you put paper in it. He loves Minecraft. So he put like whichever creature he likes. I don't even know if it's the creeper. One of them. Sorry, I don't know. And then he put, what was it? We have a button maker, and then my husband can make magnets with it. And so since it's metal, they made little magnets, so you can put little magnets in there, which I thought was fun. And so then today we had parent-teacher conferences, and it's the first time he did a student-led one. That's the system of this school. So he was super nervous, and so when he came into the room and I was in there, he takes the 10 out and looks at it and closes it and then starts the conference. And then when he goes, the teacher was like, yeah, what's the 10? And I was like, well, actually. So it's just something for you for when you need it. You know, it's all about what you need. And maybe you don't need it all the time.
It's a mental break.
It is a mental break. Honestly, like the one that I have for work, and it's right by my desk. And when I have to write a pitch, like for something, like I want to submit something for an organization or doing something like that, of course I get really nervous about it. So it's sitting right here, and so I just rub my hand on it. I'm like, okay, before we type, before we do this, just calm down. And it really just kind of like gets my brain from racing. And it's not like such a big deal. I mean, I don't get up, I don't do deep breathing like for that. I do that for other things, but it's just something, it's like my little habit, like, okay. And then I just go, and I'm like, okay, put a little glitter on it. Okay, go. And then it's just something that is for that moment to give me a break without having to go do a whole nother thing. Like sometimes I'll get my hula hoop out if I'm like, I have more time. I'm also productive procrastinating when I get that out, to be honest. So then there's that. You know, when you know you should be doing something, but you do something good instead of that, as opposed to like get on social media. That's a whole nother topic. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, that was a great question. I love it. So what I want you all to do is start playing with the materials. Think about something you want to put together. Nothing is wrong. You can't mess up anything. It's all here for you to play with and use. I've seen people do different things with the paper where they will have one sheet and they might cut another one in half. This is a suggestion. It's not a requirement. They might cut it in half and they might make like doors because they tape it or whatever, and they'll have something on one half. I've seen that. I've seen people just do a paper. I've seen people cut the paper in half. It all depends on what you want to do. And since, you know, we have more materials here, you're not limited to just what's on your table. You can spill over and use stuff. Has everybody used washi tape before? This is like my most favorite thing because they have different themes. It can have things based on the season, inspirational messages, you know, whatever. And you can use washi tape, and if you don't really like what you've done with the washi tape, it doesn't have really strong adhesive, so you can take it off. So one woman, when she did her box, she put a thematic washi tape based on what the holiday was, and she's like, oh, I'm going to take this one off when it's time for Christmas, and then I'll put a different one on for Valentine's Day, and I'll put a different one on for St. Patrick's Day or whatever. And I thought, great, because she really likes the different themes of the holidays. So play with the washi tape. I have some that are holiday focused, some that are inspirational, some that are just plain. There's different sizes of those. I always tell people, they're like, well, we don't really have a lot of these things. What are the things that I should get? Of course, glue. Most everybody has glue. But I say washi tape because no matter what the age is, almost all the kids can work with washi tape. And you can't, if you're worried about it getting stuck on something important, it's not that adhesive. So then there's that safety issue. So people are like, no Sharpies. I'm like, nope, no Sharpies. Don't do Sharpies. Do your water-based things that are washable. And then, you know, you can get these stacks of scrapbook papers that are like always on sale, but then they're different sizes. And then it's all, if you're worried about space, you can put it in a box, like a little bin. It doesn't have to be like a big thing. Like I have a craft closet, but you know, it doesn't have to be there. I even told one woman, I said, if you want to start with something like this and just have, this is your craft station as much, it's fine. Just get things you love. Stickers are always great and easy. Get those at the grocery store. You don't even have to go to a special store for those. If you like your sanctuary more contained, doing one just in a notebook that you have or a beautiful journal you have on a shelf because it's too pretty to use, this is a good reason to use it. So my suggestion for you all, and we're not finishing up, but I know if I do it at the end, everybody will be running out of here, is to, whatever you've made tonight, you know, put it somewhere where you're going to be able to see it every day. You know, it's easy to put things on the shelves, to tuck them away, but, you know, that's the purpose of the visual sanctuary, is to be able to see it. Like I said, I like to keep things in my van, in my minivan, because I'm there a lot, and also in my big purse. So think about the mobility, how it fits with you. It's okay to have more than one visual sanctuary. Maybe you have one that's more set up in an office or at home, and then you have one that you can carry with you and it's maybe smaller and more contained. It's okay to continue that. And there are no limits, like I said. You know, whatever you like, however you want to do it. If you want to switch it up by the season or by what's going on in your life, that's all okay too. And then the other piece is keep working on it. It doesn't ever have to be done. You can add different pieces to it and have fun with it. So were there any questions?
Where's washi tape available? Like
Oh, yeah. So you can get washi tape at Michael's. You can get it at Target. I've seen it at Walgreens.
Okay.
I'm sure Walmart would have it in the crafting section. I don't know if there's any Hobby Lobbies around. I've not seen one. So, and then, of course, Amazon. I mean, you could go nuts on Amazon, but it's just so fun to see it. They even have scratch and sniff washi tape. Super fun. There's a great paper store down at Santana Row. I'm trying to think of the name. It's on the end, across kind of from the Left Bank restaurant. I'll look it up on my phone. But it's a Japanese paper store. And they have tons of washi tape, not to even mention all the markers and pens. It's just a good time in there. Like, if you go down there for that, spend time.
Just realized I've got.
You're not going to pop in. You're going to be in there for a while. And then there is Dazo. I don't know where there's a close one now, because there was one in Mountain View, but it closed. But they have a lot of good washi tape and craft things. But yeah, Michael's, Walgreens, Target. Super easy and simple, and Amazon. And they have, like, you know, bigger rolls too. They have various levels of thickness and width. So yeah, I think Duct Tape is even making washing tape now. Duct Tape brand. Yeah, it's so popular and fun. And there's books on different crafts you can just do with washi tape. I get most of my stuff from Michael's. I love it there. Oh, Joann Fabrics would also have washi tape too, if you're close to a Joann's.